Hey Haley. Hey Kelly. I think I can see comments on my phone right now. So that's nice. But I'm pulling up the live just in case.
Nice, because I can't. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Billy Joe.
Already had to take off the dog's collar. She's gonna start shaking like there's no tomorrow. Go to bed. Hey Billy Joe. Oh,
If I had my tripod closer, it would be like right on my nose.
that's my thing is like I can only scooch back so far because then
Mhm.
I hit my altar. So like when I was hosting, I'd have to sit all the way backwards, lean all the way backwards, and it was still so zoomed in.
Yeah, I don't know why it does that.
I think it's like it just glitches sometimes.
Mhm.
It's really weird. At least we're not doing the Grimoire live where we were showing like a lot of stuff.
The big one, be like, eh.
Yeah. Haley says, "How are we doing?" I'm doing right. How are
Mhm.
you doing?
I'm doing good.
There you go. Today's been a long day, Billy Jones.
It really
Oh,
has.
rats! I just did the same thing I did last time. I keep clicking on Crystal's live and not ours. Because my computer like lags and then I hit the pinned post.
Yeah.
But welcome everybody to another Books of the Craft mini series. And welcome to any of the replay viewers. We are so glad to have you watching through the replay. Feel free to comment throughout the entire video and we will respond to all comments. And Atia, you're not late. We're just getting started.
All right. So, just wanted to reintroduce the series. We are on number 2 of a 3 live mini series. The current one is Book of Shadows. Last month in January, wow, I can't believe it's already February, was Grimoires. And next month in March, we are doing Shadow Work. Man, I am going to confuse myself with the two shadows.
Yeah. And it is pretty crazy that it's already
Yeah.
February. The year is flying by. So, what is a Book of Shadows? A Book of Shadows is a personal book of one's craft and practice. Think of like a witchy diary. This is normally used in a way to record one's journey of their practice, sometimes containing records, a timeline of your craft, personal lore, trial and error of rituals, spells, recipes that you're working on, divination workings, god, goddess, deity, spirits, spirit guide workings, and also personal traditions. Without going into detail on what a grimoire is, because we have done so previously, what is the difference between a grimoire and a book of shadows? A grimoire is more of a textbook slash instruction manual, and a book of shadows is more of a personal diary of one's craft. Also, usually less formal as it's only written for you. The argument that a book of shadows is purely a Wiccan term, there is that. Some people say that a book of shadows is only a Wiccan term and that others, witches, use grimoires and book of shadows interchangeably. So there'll be some people that their books are the exact same and then others separate them. I'm not going to say whether Books of Shadows is purely a Wiccan term or not because I don't feel like that's for me to decide. But there is that argument of whether it is or not.
And then to go on that, a little history on Book of Shadows. Unlike grimoires, Book of Shadows are a fairly new idea. Going to the Wiccan again. The most famous Book of Shadows was created by the pioneering Wiccan Gerald Garner sometime between late 1940s and the early 90s, and which he utilized first in his Bricket Wood Coven and then other covens which he formed in the following decades. Book of Shadows is a book that is largely made up of various instructions for all magic rituals within. And again, this is a particular part was talking about being pagan, or not pagan, but Wicca. But I believe a Book of Shadows is for everybody. The idea of this book could be revived as a center pillar of Wicca, which was repurposed, right, Chris, recently back in the 1970s, which then it gained popularity and adaptation across several pagan paths and practices. Some misconceptions, and I'm going to add this because I didn't have it before, is that it's not purely just Wiccan. It is for everybody.
I want
So
to comment before
yeah,
you run too far with that. The reason a lot of stuff is really like set with it's from Wicca or it is a Wiccan thing is because you have to think of it when Wicca came about, that was like the witchcraft, like spiritual revolution. Everything amped up. It became a lot more acceptable. No, you're not very late, Christy. We're just getting started. But it just came in and it became like a thing where like you could actually talk about it without being like persecuted. And so it was that so a lot of times it's, like, tied back to that, but now we're branched out again from just
Yeah,
that,
yep.
if that makes
Yeah, could
sense.
yeah, especially since Wicca is the newest, not the newest, but one of the newer ones, since it only dates back to like the 40s and 50s. So a lot of people think witchcraft, think Wicca, and they don't realize that there's pagans and all these other like branches of it. So here's some misconceptions. On top of believing it's just a Wiccan term, some people believe a book of shadows contain actual shadows
Shadows.
and are evil. This is not true. There are not spirits or shadows within the pages of this book. They're they are only for dark path practitioners. So this is going to the opposite side of Wiccan. Some people believe it's only for dark path practitioners. This is not true. The Book of Shadows is a witch's journal or a practitioner's journal, and you can walk any path you choose and use one. Demons are waiting to possess you and stealing your energy within the pages. This kind of goes back to the same as the grimoire that people believe you actually bind stuff to it. They are not personal, which in fact they very much are. They are to be kept to the outline and not to be creative, which is not true. They are yours to create, and they have to be organized, which if anybody saw mine, it definitely is not. That's what my grimoire's for.
Yeah, if you wanted to do your Book of Shadows in mainly illustrations, you could do that. If you wanted to do your Book of Shadows and you put 1,000 sticky notes inside of one of those books that just open up, you could do that. Like it's could be you have a literal folder filled with just
Mhm.
scraps of paper because it's everything that you have. You could do that. But having it in a nice like spiral is not for you. Don't do that. Do whatever works. It's like a diary, but it's not a diary of the mundane. It's a diary of your practice. There's no like required things to be in them either. And hey, Carol, Billy Joe says she keeps all of her stuff in one place, but she has some separate things, but not in the form of a book of shadows or a grim. Who uses a book of shadows? An individual witch, practitioner, pagan, and so forth to record and document personal things in one's journey of the craft. When would I was reading this. When would one use a book of shadows? So when would you want to write it? When you are prepping or working on or just then completed a magical working of any kind. You could write in your personal diary as you're completing a ritual, as you're going across it. You could be like, this is what the flame is doing. Holy crap, I just spilled my herbs everywhere. Like whatever you wanted to write as you were doing it. If you are working on any kind of divination, spell work, rituals, Sabbath celebration, connecting to magical beings, during a meditation, healing work, shadow work, etc. Ronnie says, I just call mine my book. When would you maybe want to look back at your book of shadows? There are many times to look back at a book of shadows, such as seeing how far you've come in your practice, referencing a to-do list or a shopping list for witchy stuff, um, referencing past divination work to see the development, looking back to see what hasn't worked in past spells or rituals, checking personal correspondences or personal usages for specific items or herbs. Like let's say you don't like align with the colors natural correspondences. Maybe yours are like completely opposite from colors. Maybe like pink is like sadness to you and maybe like a dark green is like happiness or whatever, you know what I mean? Maybe you want to write that down in your book of shadows because it's personal to you. But then if you're like, wait, what did I say this color was? You can like back through your pages and pull it from there. Where to use your book of shadows? Anywhere that you feel comfortable enough to do so, such as your altar, outside, in your bed, in the kitchen, in the car, not while you're driving, wherever you want though. So let's see. Ronnie says she uses a lot of those plastic inserts. Billy Joe says notes or papers here and there. Christy says my grimoire is very formal and clean. Spells who used it and when or who wrote it. My book of shadows has everything from notes and cool things that someone said.
Yep, that is how mine is. Very chaotic. How to use it? Use it as your journal. Write your thoughts on your path, spells that work, spells that didn't work. I literally in mine have a big old in red in my very first book of shadows saying, be careful with frankincense, highly flammable, because I almost burnt my apartment down because of it.
Good note.
Um,
Good note.
Yep. You can draw in it. So, like, if you don't feel like writing, you can draw and keep your thoughts that way. write down the dreams you have, any personal visions you have, your personal tarot readings, record channelings from the spirits that you're working with, which I highly recommend because especially when you start channeling, you're not going to remember everything word for word. So it's actually great to write as you're channeling. Record experiences with spirits. For example, Loki tried to push me down the stairs because he wanted to get my attention. Hopefully not, but something like that. Um, Write the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you're frustrated with something and it's a particular spell or whatever, write that in there too so that you can go back and see what worked and what didn't work. It's your working book. Use it however you feel you should use it.
You could also make a shit list in it.
Mhm.
Stuff that you just freaking hate, witchy
Mhm.
related. Vent it out in those pages.
Yep.
I know a lot of people in the comments said they appreciated me going over the opposites with colors or that they have the same thing. It's like that with anything. It could be any items, any herbs, any crystal. Like for instance, a lot of people think amethyst is like peaceful or whatever. Crystal freaking hates amethyst. So that's not gonna be peaceful for her if someone whips out an amethyst. Like,
Yeah.
or just like different things, everybody is personal on their own path. So I liked what Kelly said. She said that her Book of Shadows taught her a lot about herself. Whenever you are like bored or whatever, and you're like, I want to do something low maintenance but witchy, you can be like, maybe I'll write a little something in my Book of Shadows. A lot of fun little prompt, and you could be like, you'll learn something about yourself. In Witches Al Exchange, we have those little interactive posts. You could take one of those interactive posts and pop it in your journal. And then there you go. Something to write about.
I think it's very therapeutic because when I'm really, really frustrated, and it's something that I don't want to voice out loud about something with the past or whatever. If I write it within my own book, it's for my eyes only. So I can get like my frustration out with whatever and it's out, because I'm very big at wanting to get stuff out too, at least for me personally.
I have a mundane journal and I have my
Same.
I need to separate that crap.
Same with me. And actually, I'm more frustrated with my boyfriend when it comes to workings together than our actual relationship, which is actually kind of funny. Like, for example, I'll just use this as an example to kind of see what to put in. I asked him for a picture for a ritual that I was supposed to do on the new moon. He never gave me the picture. So now I have to wait until the next new moon to do it.
You're
So
like, I have to wait a long time
yeah.
for this.
Yeah, so now under where I would have done the ritual the last new moon, I'm all venting about it in there. So
There you
yeah.
go.
All right. The concept of consecrating one's book of shadows. Why would one want to consecrate a book of shadows? Your book of shadows is your personal sacred tool in your magical practice. The process of cleansing and consecration can help attune the book to your energies and intentions. There are many ways to do this. It depends on your personal beliefs and practice. These are my own personal ones. When would you consecrate it? As soon as I'm ready to use it is when I personally do it. I want to wait until it's time for the book because I am a journal goblin. So I have journals that I bought 3 years ago that I haven't used yet. So if I was to consecrate it as soon as I got it, I feel like if I do it as soon as I get it, being a notebook, that goblin that I am, it could be there for years. And I feel like the consecration will go stagnant and I just have to reconsecrate it anyway. So I'm just saving my energy and doing it when I go to use it. In my head, a full journal finishes its job and stays consecrated. It has your energy now within the pages and keeping it fresh. How would you consecrate it? You can do it with smoke of oil or oils. If it's a leather bound journal, I use oils. Use a blend with a grapeseed carrier, that evil frankincense, star anise, and rosemary. I mix it together and with my fingers, I will put it on the four corners, front and back, and then start in the center and kind of run it into the middle. And then I let it sit on my altar. If it's something that can't get wet, I use smoke. I make my own incense blends with frankincense, star anise, and rosemary again. I will mix the herbs, burn it, and using the smoke, I will wave the Book of Shadows over the smoke, kind of getting the four corners front and back again.
To catch up on some of the comments, I wanted to touch on what you said here, Mary. You said, I've been making a book of shadows since I was a teen, but I didn't know what it was called then. So now trying to do grimoires, I'm having trouble switching my brain from book of shadows to grimoires and not switching the two. So I want to comment a little. Maybe for you, you don't like not saying directly to you, Mary, but maybe for anybody, maybe it's you don't have to. Maybe you just have a grimoire and you also have your personal pages. Because, like, let's say you're a really open person and you don't mind putting it all together. You can put it all together and organize it how you want to. You don't have to have two separate ones. Back in the day, we don't know if there even was a book of shadows. It could have not been a thing, it could have been a thing. So you can do whatever works for in your practice. If you find that having it separate is just really hard for you and you feel like you're just duplicating things, then maybe try it and do it differently. And then I also wanted to pass on a comment on another comment that Mary said. She said, I wish I had someone to pass my books down to when she passes. And I will say, if you don't have a direct family descendant to pass it on to, that doesn't necessarily mean your books have to grow stagnant. You can always find another practitioner that you're close to, and you could pass them to a trusted person. It doesn't necessarily have to be someone that is directly blood related to you. So, and then a lot of people are chatting about being a notebook goblin. So you definitely gather a bunch of them. Yes, the Book of Shadows could be digital. It could be printed. You could carve it on a stone tablet. It could be however you want to do it. Like any way that works for you, you got it.
Yep.
A lot of people said they're going to start saying notebook goblin rather than impulsive.
Okay. Yeah. And I actually wrote that. Like, if you guys could see the notes, that was actually written in the notes. That is how I wrote it. I wrote
It was great. I love
Yep.
that.
I wrote them no goblin.
So what all do Books of Shadows include? Again, not an all-encompassing list, but maybe a good one to give you some ideas of what to start putting in there. Records or a timeline of your craft and personal lore, trial and error of rituals, spells, and recipes that you're working on, divination workings and deity, god, goddess, spirit guide, etc. workings, fae or other magical beings that you've met, things about them that you've learned, warnings that you've learned. Maybe don't fuck around with the fae, like whatever you value with it. But of offerings that you've provided to different beings or deities, etc. So you can keep up with I actually, putting in the work. Personal tradition, goals related to your craft and personal achievements from your craft, recording dreams, recording different animals that you see a crap ton. Like, let's say you casually just keep seeing all white deer, maybe write that down. Different symbols that maybe keep repeating, or number sequences that continuously repeat for you, or just anything that you see and you feel a pull that, hey, I should just document that I saw that. Then you could be like, holy crap, I've seen that 10 times and not even realize that it was 10 times. Recording meditation sessions or astral projection, writing down books that you read and reviewing them, or a list of books that you want to read. For fun, a list of books you want to buy. There you go. Or online references that you want to remember, like different websites or whatever. Personal correspondences for herbs, oils, crystals, etc. Meditation of all of the crystals or tools in your craft, and then you can write about each item and bond with it. A log of spells you've completed, or rituals, your witchy shopping list, personal experiences with the Sabbath, personal energy work or chakra work, notes or information gathered, quotes or random writings you've connected with, incantations, chants, prayers, offering sayings, or other witchy sayings, random thoughts that come to mind of random things you want to Google or research. Because there's nothing like lying in bed and you're like, I really need to know this right now. But maybe you can't actually get up and look it up. Write it down. Phases and astral charts, current healing, or shadow work. And that's a big old list. So I'm sure that gave you guys some ideas. And she says, wow, so much stuff I never thought of. Good work. See, there we go. Now you guys got some ideas. And when you start writing something, you'll surely think of something else to write.
And we could probably put that list of ideas in the event too, so that people can go back to it as well.
Here, I'll be a nice person. I'll just put it in the chat.
Okay, perfect. There's different styles too. There are as many different styles of Book of Shadows as there are practitioners. Here are some, but not limited to composition notebooks, spiral notebooks, lined leather-bound journals, unlined leather-bound journals, handmade books, binders for paper, a Word doc on the computer, a drawing journal. Here's some dark side of the Book of Shadows. What would make a Book of Shadow dark would be what's kept within the pages. It could be a demonology journal. It could be kept for notes of necromancy and death magic. Maybe it's a journal of somebody working with the cliff off, or the practitioner is just very, very heavy on the dark side of the left hand path as well. But the Book of Shadow itself is not dark.
I was reading
I know
that was directives.
so yeah, that was it. So I was just I figured
Christy says I wasn't a goblin until now. I need more books. Ronnie said yes, like a shopping list. I knew I didn't have something because it wasn't listed. And that's nice. Yeah, adding stickers is a really good way to like just add a little fun pizzazz to it.
Yep.
Okay, well now we're on showing examples. So let's grab some. I'm right. I didn't jump out. No, I thought I skipped something for a second there. I was repulling on my Facebook. Got me very discombobulated because it didn't want to let me put anything in the comments. I'll just give examples to go off of this notebook goblin of some notebooks that I've had for a long time. So here's a type of book you could use. You know, it's just a regular old plain journal. I've probably had this since the dawn of dinosaurs because I journal mundane stuff. So I go through journals like a crazy person. So there's like a blank journal you could use. I usually use these for junk journaling, but here's, you know, a nice little one. I don't think I have anything written in here. I don't. I gave some pages out though, so I probably wrote something at some point. So, you know, another little blank one. And I showed these
pages.
Oh yeah, I'm like, I write one thing in there. I'm like, nope, this is not what this journal's for. I showed these 3 off in the Grimoire Live, but these are another examples of what you could use for your Book of Shadows. This is an old Book of Shadows of mine, but funny story with this. It started as a Book of Shadows when I was like, gosh, 12. Like I was really young, and I only did like 20 pages.
Yeah.
And 90% of the pages was questions that I had about the practice. And then I guess I just decided frick this journal and I started a different one. So so when I like was like a year ago, I picked up this journal and I was like, wow, this would make such a nice, you know, like divination journal. I opened it up and I was like, whoa, these are so I was like, these are some old questions. So like where it's like some super basic stuff where it's like, what are all of the sad answers? I was like, girl, we know the answer. We're past that. So I like pulled out all the old pages. And then now this is 90% of it is a book of tarot readings that I've either received or given to other people. I thought I would mention that as its evolution went on. This is my current Book of Shadows. It says create your own magic.
I have that notebook.
See, it was too good to pass up. I saw it at Walmart. I was like, bet. I'll open up to the back. Obviously, it's just blank notebook paper, but that's what mine is. And yes, Elizabeth, it definitely made me feel proud of how far I came. I was reading all the questions, and I was like, I know that one. I know that one. It was so nice being able to like be like, oh yeah. Those are the examples that I've got.
This is my current one. So it's one of those fancy ones. I'll go to the back.
That's pretty.
Pages. This one is actually for like thoughts and stuff like that. It actually says professional overthinker on it.
Love that.
I have a little mini one that this is like a finished one. So this was literally my first one.
That is super cute.
Yep. And then of course I got the one that I got from, I had to make sure, from the Wist Exchange, which she actually read my mind because when I was going to buy it, I had this for my partner. I had this in my cart and I'm like, you know what? Wait until you see what you get. And then when I opened it, I'm like, that's the one I wanted.
There you go. That's like meant to be.
Yeah.
Okay, the comment of all the different things to include in your Book of Shadows finally commented. So you guys go. All right. Let's go into some ideas or tips with your Book of Shadows. First one, Don't stress about the visual appeal as if no one's gonna see the inside of it besides you, unless maybe you're dead, and then I guess you can judge them as a ghost.
Mm.
You don't have to stress about it. It doesn't matter what it looks like on the inside. Don't feel like you can't write in it because you're so stressed about it looking pretty. And to all of our notebook goblins, myself and Angel included, just because the notebook is gorgeous doesn't mean you can't write inside of it. Don't feel like if your handwriting's not pretty enough or you don't have the bestest thing to put inside of it so you can never write in it. If you save your beautiful stickers for the perfect time to use them, you'll never use them. Think back to when you were a kid. How many stickers did you have that you were saving for the perfect moment that never happened because you never put the sticker
Mhm.
down? Use the journal. They're meant to write in them. If you're using a dated diary, using a dated diary format and or a section specific format. So if you're like super hyped on, I need to organize this thing, maybe organizing it with sections works well for you. Maybe your book of shadows is in a binder. Sections might work great for you. Maybe you're in a spiral notebook and the thought of it being discombobulated stresses you the heck on out. Then maybe leave like 20 pages in the front for like prompts and then use the rest of it as like diary style. Maybe split the notebook in half and do the back half diary style and the front half prompts. Come up with what you're doing and then just stick with it. If it shit starts hitting the fan, it'll be okay. It's in your personal notebook. You can draw a big oopsies on the top of the page and move something and it'll be all right. If you like being able to organize or rearrange, like I said, use a binder or a folder that has the 3 rings inside of it, because then you can just move all the paper around. The book doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be the most beautiful leather-bound book found in the mountains in a cave underground in a giant chest. It could be a simple composition notebook or a $5 Walmart book. Like, it doesn't have to be anything special. Kelly says, I'm feeling called out with my beautiful notebook sitting idly. I think one has the first page torn out because of my handwriting. That is why there's pages torn from this one. It's because I was started to write in it and I was like, heck no, and I ripped it out. I even got a fountain pen and I thought that was going to fix the problem. And then I was like, well, it doesn't look like a grandma from the 1800s wrote it, so it just is not good. It's definitely relatable. That's why I felt like I needed to say it, because I was like, we're all thinking, we're all thinking. Not sticking to a specific format when you're writing might help you. Maybe trying to stick to an organized thing is preventing you from writing because every time you go to write, you're just organizing. Well, that's not helping you either. Maybe including doodles, artwork, or printouts will help you. Maybe you just chop out a page of a magazine, rip something out of something. I know some people are super protective over their books, so I'm so sorry to offend someone who's protective over their books. Maybe you buy 2 books and you rip the pages out of one. Maybe you just go crazy and you just rip the pages out of the one you have. Like, maybe you just start drawing in your books. Whatever works, you know what I mean? They're books. You can buy a new one. Maybe if you have the first edition, most prettiest like one ever, maybe don't do that. If the book is worth $12, do whatever you want to it. Go crazy. It's yours. So I hope that helps inspire some people or like get over that last hurdle that's keeping you from doing it.
All right, so I have a challenge for you guys. In the next week, I want you to write down all of your dreams you have, keep track of any tarot readings you do or have, and make your own spell and track the progress. And then a week from now, come back into the event and comment what happens and what you found out. You'll be surprised.
Whatever it lets me comment in, I'm putting that in the chat.
Perfect.
There you
Yeah.
go. Maybe that'll help inspire. Kick off the dust bunnies
Yeah.
off the top of your book of shadows
Right.
and pop back into.
And then, of course, I'll post that in the group too, so that if people don't want to do it in the comments, they can actually comment under the prompt, and I'll add everybody.
Christy says I'm gonna rip out 2 pages before she dies just to drive her kids crazy.
The most important pages too.
Yank! It just puts a little sticky note. Ha ha! Figure it out.
Yeah, hide it somewhere, like bury it somewhere or something. I
There
want
you
that.
go. Haley says good challenge. I'm going to provide some resources so that way you can continue diving your knowledge further on Book of Shadows. One of the previous lives I'll point out is in Guide 56. This is subject to change. It might be Guide 57 now because every time we add a month, the guide changes. But regardless, it's around 56. The name of the live is Book of Shadows / Grimoire / Journals. It was by Gina and it was posted on August 30th, 2021. There are also many, many, many different books and websites and videos that talk about Book of Shadows and all about them. You can reach out to fellow witches here in the comments. You can reach out in your clan. You can reach out to an admin. You can reach out to Angel or I. You can reach out to any witches that you know. And also, the sister groups such as WWR and WOE have ample information and prompt ideas and just inspiring posts.
All right. Anything interesting in the comments? Because I can't see the
Um,
comments today.
Kelly says, love a challenge.
Okay.
Billy Joe says, too many dreams every night. I would be riding all day.
Pick ones that really stick out to you then, because I'm a very avid and vivid dreamer too. So the ones that either you felt really, really good about or ones that kind of you woke up and you were unsettled, write those ones down and see if they reoccur during the week.
I'll say, yeah, if they're reoccurring dreams, definitely
Yeah.
write those down. All right, that's pretty much the highlights. In the
Now
comments.
watch, because I did the challenge. I'm not going to dream for a week. Be like, nope, no dreams for you. All right. So for closing, the Book of Shadows is one of the most personal tools in a witchcraft practitioner's toolbox. Unlike a grimoire, it is very personal to the owner. It is a great way to keep track of your thoughts and feelings as you walk your path. There is no right or wrong way to keep a Book of Shadows. No one has to see it besides you, and as long as it makes sense to you, that's all that matters.
Very, very true. To that note, I will say when I was, I don't know, really young, I found them in the old Book of Shadows. I found them. I created my own alphabet using literal symbols, and for like a period of time, don't ask me why, but for a period of time, I wrote in the symbols. It looked like
Oh,
hieroglyphs up in my
love
journal.
that.
I had like a gazillion symbols, and I loved doing it until the very first time I went back to read it, and I was like, "Holy crap! Translating this is annoying," and so
Yeah.
I stopped doing that. But you can write however you want. It doesn't have to be anything specifically. Billy Joe says, reoccurring dreams for me always bring truth.
Yeah, you are warning yourself of something, especially with me being like a medium and stuff like that. I notice if I have a reoccurring dream enough, it does happen. Like I had a dream when I was working in the mall that in Hurricane Milton, the mall got hit by the hurricane and had damage to the roof and was closed for 9 days. So
That
yeah.
just makes me think of the randomest story ever. I'll give the cliff notes. When I
Okay.
was a little kid, like the second grade, 5 minutes after I got off my school bus, was my school was like 5 minutes from my house. Tornado came and ripped my whole hallway off my school, and that's where we would have hunkered down. Literally, the
Yeah.
entire hallway was gone.
Oh
And I
wow.
remember that I left $5 in my cubby, and I was so
Oh
mad
no.
because it was long gone. And I was in like the first or second grade, so $5 was a lot. But I was so glad I was home, and it was so scary to go back to school and be like, the whole half of the school is gone. I haven't thought about that in a long time, but you said that. It's just randomly made me think of it. Fun story time for anybody watching. I just
Yeah,
had to
exactly.
share. Maggie says she loves looking back on old journals. There's a lot of moments where I had a WTF. Billy Joe said, me too, girl. Dreams are one of my gifts. And then Elizabeth said, I hope mine don't come true. Mine are mostly apocalyptic. Sheesh, is what Elizabeth says. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely have like very specific reoccurring dreams, but they're like wild. They're wild, but they're reoccurring. For everybody, our next live and our final live in the Books of the Craft mini series, not me and Angel's final live, but just the wrap up of this series, is in March 2nd. And it's going to be over a shadow work journal. So not a book of shadows, but just a shadow work journal. So all about shadow work. But thank you to everybody who watched us live. Big thank you to people on the replay. Thank you for commenting throughout the live. Let's see. Christy says, great live, lots of discussion and ideas. Loved it. Thank y'all. You are so welcome. Glad you enjoyed it.
You're so welcome. I love doing this stuff too. Like, I think Sarah and I have an awesome vibe. Like, we work so well together too that I love doing these series, so
I will say that the work balance is great, the communication is great, the flow is 10 out of 10. Billy Joe requests says, Angel, could you do a live on dreams? Because for new people, just dealing with dreams and talking to us, is basically if you could do a
yeah,
dream live. So.
absolutely.
Haley says, thank you for sharing about Book of Shadows with us. Have a great rest of the night. Excited for the Shadow Work Live. Kelly
Yes.
says, we'll have to find more books. We'll have to find more types of books so we can watch you both more. Well, we do have our not our Books of Shadows. We have our Wheel of the Year
Yep,
series, and we have Divination Lives. Shadow Angel has a
yep.
podcast. So there we go.
Yeah, we have a series on there too, and I'm sure once we finish at the end of the year, we'll probably come up with another year's worth of stuff too. So,
Yeah.
yep,
Angela and I are going to be cranking out
yeah,
content. So I think the partnership works great.
yeah. Well, thank you
Ronnie
guys.
says she needed that line.
Okay,
I think we'll leave it
all
with
right.
that one.
Let's, bye, guys.